A Yautja shows his face in the wild. Here's your look at the brand new Hiya Toys Predator Open Mouth Jungle Predator Exquisite Mini. Exquisite Mini is a new standard setting series for 1/18th scale, featuring super articulation action figures under Hiya Toys. It's time to play with more predators. But before we do, though, of course, we're going to grab the ruler just to see how tall the Jungle Hunter open mouth version is. The figure is about 5 inches in height, or about 12.5 centimeters tall. Big thank you once again to the folks over at Hiya Toys that did provide this sample of the open mouth Jungle Hunter Predator that we could have a look at. For some scale comparisons, as we've already had a look at Jungle Hunter lately, let's slide over the open mouth version. And let's bring in the original one, well, at least the version 2 one that we have looked at recently here on this channel. You'll probably see right away that they have a lot of things shared. Same arms, same torso, same legs. Really, the only thing that is different between the two is maybe a slight change of paint. And, of course, brand new different head sculpts between the two. Body molds aren't the only things that get shared between the two predators, as the open mouth version of the Jungle Hunter comes included with the exact same accessories. Starting things off first, the figure comes included with a muddy terrain display stand. Once again, one singular peg off to the far side that plugs into the underside of the figure's feet. It does have a nice painted surface, and just to show you the other one that came included with the Jungle Hunter, they are almost identical to one another. I suppose sticklers for paint could probably see that there are a few little places that are a little bit different on this one, but I guess if you just match them up, they're not that far from one another. It looks like the same sunken in area of the ground seems also be the same thing painted on this one as it was painted on this one here. Why I'm also bringing these both in as well is to drive home again the idea that with these display stands, you can actually line them up, and to come include with every single one of them, you get these eye brackets. Just plug these to the bottom of these, just like that. And you really don't even need the other one, but just to finish off the job, plugging them both to the sides, you can actually extend out your diorama display. And that's one thing I absolutely love about Hiya Toys, the fact that you can expand, depending on how many figures you really have in your collection. You can have a small terrain, just one standalone stand for the figure to be standing on top of, or again, the more that you have of these, the merrier of a display stand diorama you'll have. We're going to put those to the side for the time being. Probably come back to that a little bit later. The figure also comes included with the exact same spinal cord and skull. Nothing has changed between this one and the other one we got before. I think it would have been an ideal time to really add some much needed blood to this one, to make it look a little bit different than the Jungle Hunters, which was identical to this. The coloring looks to be the same. They've also added a nice wash to the spinal cord and added some additional wash to the top of the head, the top of what's left of the head at least. As you can see, the missing jaw is missing. The bottom jaw is missing. Nice little piece to go along with the figure, of course, in order for him to hold it. The figure also comes included with the exact same hands as well. The first hand we'll have a look at, so small to actually hold on with my own hands. It's not a gripping hand, it's just a closed fist. It does have some nice paint added to it. And then, of course, he comes included with this hand, too. I'm always so worried about dropping and losing these. But yeah, this gripping hand would be ideal for, of course, holding the spinal cord. Now, one thing I did mention when we did have a look at the version 2 Predator is that even though you can put this in the figure's hands, you still have to then take the hand off this side, as the hand that's going to be holding the spinal cord and skull isn't for this side of the body, which I kind of wish they could have included a hand for that side rather than having to take the figure and manipulate this hand off in order to replace it. Because I feel like there's already so much going on this side anyways, being the fact it does have the gauntlet blades. Then to add a hand on this side and have it holding the spinal cord, whether it's screen accurate or not, I'd love to see them also include a secondary hand, which it could have gone on this side also. So those are the accessories that come included with the figure, of course, for the comparison of comparing the two Predators. We're going to bring back the original Jungle Hunter. Now, this was also battle damage Jungle Hunter, and I really don't see a lot of aspects to it that really show battle damage. I see a couple of dents there on the actual helmet, but don't see anything really about it that tells me that it's battle damaged. Anyways, this one definitely is open mouth. As you can see, not only is the helmet removed, but also the mandibles are extended out, revealing a rather gnarly looking face. The coloring seems to be the same when it comes certainly for the bodies. Looking at the two bodies, I can't really see a difference between the two, whether it be the torso, the arms, or the legs. They seem like they're pretty close. One thing that does seem different, though, now that I'm looking at it, is the actual bones, the little trophy that he's got around his torso. When we looked at the original one, it was too pale and too yellow for my liking. This one actually does have some additional wash to it, something that was completely absent on this one. Yeah, they have gone in and painted some of the areas white, but I think it's the wash of the color that really adds to the contrast, and it doesn't make it look like it's glowing so brightly yellow. I think this one is handled a little bit better. Plasma casters seem to be the same between the two. Arm gauntlets also identical, and it seems as well like the armor seems almost identical, even though this one seems like it comes across a little bit more of a shinier silver paint. When you look at this one comes across a little bit more dull, and maybe again that's why it ties to the idea of this one being a battle damaged predator. I'm going to put that one to the side because we've already certainly had a look at that in its own extensive review. Getting a closer look at the head sculpt here on the unmasked open-mouthed jungle hunter. Not a bad looking jungle hunter predator. It does have some nice coloring up at the top here, sort of like a almost reddish beige color that they've put in there, along with little speckles and spots of black and some cream color in there as well. It really does add a lot of nice colors to the predator. I almost feel like it's maybe a little too tad pink, but I think overall the colors work quite well for this. I would also like to see a version of this now with a bigger, bulkier body like this, come with a head sculpt that does have the closed mandibles. I always really like the idea of seeing an unmasked predator with a closed mouth and not always going the route of having the open mouth done every single time. As with the other one, it does have the plasma caster, which isn't a separate piece. I suppose you could try to pop this off the torso, but it does fill out the rest of the body. It's always going to be bigger and bulkier at the top of the predator's torso, and that certainly does fill out a lot more volume when it comes to the shape of his body. Now, with the newer predators, they seem to be going the route of the bigger, bulkier bodies that we mentioned already. The earlier predators would have been more lankier and thinner, so I really like the idea that they're switching things up now and giving us a thicker-looking predator, because these predators, after all, should be a lot more muscular. Again, some really nice detail happening here. I really do appreciate the fact that the darker paint that they've added here really does dilute the coloring of the yellow, so it doesn't stand out so much as when we had a look at the version 2. Still, though, I feel like the colors here are a little tad too light when it comes to the torso. I feel like they really could have added a lot more brown. Maybe perhaps some of the brown, like for example, that's on the arms, doesn't seem to be playing a lot here when the torso. I feel like if they had brought in some of this, just transferred some of this additional brown color over here, and not just kept it to the side of his body, because that's really the only place where you get those darker colors. Here, I feel it's a little too light. I would have maybe just added a little bit more extra brown to that. Like the other predator we looked at earlier, this one doesn't have the open flap here for its control pad. Something I wish they could have incorporated to the figure, but keeping in mind again how small these figures are in the first place. He does have, again, like the other one, the extendable blade. It doesn't extend out too far, so don't yank it too much as you're going to be risking breaking these. At least they are made of softer plastic. The lower skirting is, again, the exact same as the one that we looked at earlier before. Again, you got a lot of darker colors here. Don't really make much of an appearance up here. I kind of wish some of this transferred over. Got the side skirts, which are a softer plastic. And again, the lower skirting, the loincloth that he wears, doesn't hinder at all the articulation. In fact, speaking of the articulation for the open mouth predator, head rotates back and forth. I also have noticed too with the necklace, this part right here, I'm just going to bring in the original predator that we looked at. See how like the necklace seems so very close, unless I've actually got it caught. Maybe I've got it caught with the hair. Maybe I could bring that down a little bit. But I've even, considered the idea of taking the head sculpt off of this one and just removing the necklace piece and keeping the rest of it still at bay. But I think this one actually does give you a little bit more space to work with, because when we look at the head sculpt, for example, I seem to have more range of motion. I can still have the head looking down, for example, up, and I can rotate it back and forth. You're still going to be limited, of course, because it does have the plasma caster on the one side. Not so much of an issue on the other side. Speaking of plasma caster, there's a ball joint. So yes, you can rotate this back and forth. You can hinge this up and down. And there's also a second joint here, but I never feel like I want to really force that, just for the risk that I could break it. As for the arms, as we looked at with the other one as well, no issues whatsoever moving those arms outward. Let's see as I spin this around. You can take the arms, rotate them forward, rotate them back. You can technically also rotate them all the way around, but you're going to be pulling against that shoulder pad, and you really don't want to rip that off. There's a swivel in the bicep, of course, a double hinge on the elbow, absolutely. And of course, when it comes to the hands, you can rotate those back and forth as they are sitting on their own peg joints. Upper torso is on a ball joint as well. Lower down, there's a lower torso abdomen joint. And there's as well a split for the legs. Now, I'm going to get it as far out as I can get it. I can get about that far on the Predator. I'm sure you're probably not going to be displaying your Predator with splits like this anyways. We'll leave that for Van Damme. Ironically saying Van Damme, as Van Damme was going to be the original person cast to play the Predator, although he would have looked like an insect. Wouldn't you love to see the insect Predator costume get released as an Exquisite mini from Hiya Toys? Hopefully that's something that they could do down the road. Anyways, the legs go forward, the legs go back. There is a swivel at the top of the thigh where that attaches, double hinge on the knee, and then when it comes to his feet, back and forth, and also an ankle pivot. And of course, yeah, he does have on the under sandals of his feet, he does have the peg holes. So of course you can attach those to the display stand if you wanted to. Essentially, we're just basically getting the exact same figures we got before. We're going to put down, once again, the open mouth Predator. Just get his feet to stand appropriately. And of course, like I said, it's just literally the same one as this one right here. Changing of the heads, which is not new. I mean, this is not a new thing that Hiya Toys have done. In the past, they have released the same Predator unmasked or unhelmeted, and then a helmeted version. So they're sort of repeating the processes here with the Jungle Hunter. It's just more pick your passion, where you actually prefer to have your Predator. I personally like to have Predator with a helmet on myself, but I kind of like the coloring that they've done for the unhelmeted open mouth. That's the name of this particular Predator, the open mouth Predator. I got to say, to its credit, it's got a lot more color, being, of course, the fact it doesn't have its helmet. And I find also the coloring of the bones that are wrapping around his torso, because they did add that darker wash of paint to it, I'd find that they don't glow. They don't glow as much as the Jungle Hunter that we looked at earlier. Still pretty much the same Predator. It's just a matter of preference as to which one you prefer. This one, the one that we looked at in this review, or the previously looked at version 2 battle damaged Jungle Hunter. Seeing as I didn't show you what it looked like with the swappable hand put in, here in final looks you can actually see the open mouth Jungle Hunter Predator holding his trophy above his head. And at least he does have the freedom in his shoulders. Where they've attached the shoulder pads to the torso rather than the shoulders of his arms means you can easily bring up his arms to a high reach and have the Predator actually looking up at his trophy, likely the way I'm going to have the figure displayed. For me, again, as I'm sure many of you already know, Jungle Hunter is my favorite of the Predator designs. Keep it classic. That's the way I like to think of things. So for me, I like the idea of having finally a bigger looking Predator put on display, unlike the more thinner Predators we've got earlier into the Hiya Toys Exquisite mini run. Don't get me wrong, again, I was still a big fan of those Predators, but liking more the thicker build that they've now incorporated not only to the version 2 Jungle Hunter Predator, but also with the open mouth version that we have here looking at in this review. Accessory-wise, yeah, you're pretty much going to get all the same accessories between the two figures. Nothing gets changed up at all. The only thing that, of course, gets changed here with the open mouth version is, again, it has an open mouth. It has its helmet removed. One of these days, I would love to see them actually release a Jungle Hunter Predator with the helmet as being a separate piece, like a faceplate. Not something you could attach to the face necessarily. I wouldn't expect that far, but at least have like the actual faceplate so you can have it displayed on the actual display stand that comes included with the figure. Maybe one of these days, that's something that Hiya Toys can deliver with a future release Jungle Hunter. But what do you guys think, though, of the open mouth Jungle Hunter Predator? Let me know down below in the comment section. I've realized this whole time I've been calling it the Jungle Hunter Predator. It's actually just called open mouth Jungle Predator, but I want to just throw in Hunter in there anyways. Big thank you once again to the folks over at Hiya Toys that did in fact provide this sample of the open mouth Jungle Predator that we could have a look at, as well as a bunch of other Hiya Toys Exquisite minis that we will be looking at in upcoming reviews. The key to making sure that you're not missing out on any of the things that are coming up to this channel is making sure, first of all, you're hitting that subscribe button down below. Second of all, that you're also turning on the bell notification. And also, third of all, that you're coming back on a regular basis to see if there's anything that you may have missed, as regularly we are posting 2 videos a day. Unheard of. Not unheard of here for this channel. 2 videos a day, Monday to Friday. So lots of stuff coming your way, guys. Again, as also promised, a lot more Exquisite minis coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.